Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo, Unruly Panel Edition tonight. I'm your host and keeper of the Airy Channel, and with me tonight are Minions Kefki.
Hello.
SkepTok.
Hi, everybody.
Sora Luna.
Hello, and if you hear yelling, I'm so sorry. It sounds like children are going to war outside.
Good. Let us know how the casualties stack up.
Like screeching out there.
It's all right.
Sorry.
It's all right. And Serenity Star 13.
Hello.
Don't forget a functional.
Oh yeah, functional.
Harry.
Well, I was actually reading little name tag things, and he has his turned off.
So he doesn't exist.
All right,
Yeah,
the last shall be
Dr.
the
Functional.
first. How have you been in the last week, functional? Anything you want to share?
I just finished making some delicious sausage rolls from scratch.
Oh,
And,
nice.
You know, most people don't seem to realize how much goes into something so simple like creating the dough yourself and then all that. And then I didn't slaughter the animals and make them filling. I bought the filling and I have casings and I stuffed it with this newfangled machine called opposable thumbs. And yeah, they came out golden delicious just 2 minutes before the show started.
So you used casings?
Yeah.
Okay, the recipe I usually use is there was a guy who was in, I think, season 4 of the Great British Bake Off. His name is Richard Burr, B-U-R-R, and he's a builder by trade.
Yep,
so he
it's
would
always
come
cold.
in and do baking the way we like to see it. Okay, he would just show up like, I'm a dude, I got a plan, I got a pencil behind my ear and a really strong cup of tea with a lot of milk and sugar in it, a builder's cup, okay? And I'm going to build some shit out of dough or whatever it was. He was one of my favorite contestants on that show of all time. And his cookbook that he put out is actually fantastic. And there's a sausage roll recipe. He takes the rough puff pastry and then he just takes the sausage roll filling, gets some like ground pork, and then just seasons it with fennel and a few other things, a little bit of red pepper flake, and then just
That's what you should do.
just puts it in. There's no need for
the
sausage
reason-
casing
The
inside
reason
a
I use
sausage
the
roll.
casing, the reason I use the casing though is I like layers in my food. So what's fun about that is I fried the sausage before to get the nice crispiness on the casings.
Yeah,
And so the outer dough, you get that nice flaky crispiness.
yeah.
Inside, especially when it comes in contact with the sausage, is going to be a little bit moister because of the moisture from the sausage.
Mhm.
And then the crispiness of the sausage casing, and then again the softness of the inside of the sausage.
Okay. Well,
And it's a chorizo. It was a chorizo mix too, so it's got a good bite to it. I
oh,
hope.
we're off in not sausage roll territory. It sounds really good, but it's not like an English sausage roll. This is like a functional sausage roll.
This
Okay.
is a functional sausage roll.
Okay.
I don't do anything.
You know what the
normal.
worst sausage rolls are? The ones that don't exist. Those are the worst sausage rolls. It doesn't freaking matter. I mean, if you have buy puff pastry, hell, I don't care if you get like Pillsbury pastry dough in a can and just wrap it around
Just as
there.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
In a pinch.
just take meat, wrap it in dough with a lot of butter in it, bake it, and then have you ever tried HP sauce?
Add some
Oh, yeah.
cheese to it.
Oh, you can totally add whatever
You
you,
can do
want.
anything.
But if you had
I've
HP
even
sauce,
chopped them up and put them
Cheese
into
in
a
the middle.
salad.
HP sauce is like how do I describe it? It's very tamarind forward, but it's got a lot of spices and stuff in it. Absolutely
Very
perfect
savory, yeah.
complement to sausage rolls. I mean, maybe not yours with the chorizo, but they're really good. Why are we talking about food again? I suck. Okay,
Because
anyway.
you asked me how I was doing, and I went into what I made for dinner. So.
I did. How are you doing, Serenity?
I'm fine. Y'all are killing me. I'm sitting here going, giggity. That's what she said.
Yeah.
Ow.
It's a sausage party.
You know, it doesn't matter if it's a small sausage roll or a big sausage roll. Anyway, yeah, it's
Gotta make sure you
It'll
wrap it
still
before you
fill
cap it.
someone up.
that's right.
It just has to taste good going down.
That's
And
right.
Wrapped well. Gotta be wrapped well.
And giggity. Okay.
And see.
Well, hopefully you've had a decent week.
I've had a pretty decent one. Like I think my computer's finally starting to go the way of the dodo.
Mm.
She's not an old girl, but she's getting up there because she has a 1660 graphics card, which for anybody in this group who knows gaming knows what that
Every
means.
time you say that, I wince.
I know. Well, it's the TI version, so it's the 6 gig. So she's not a weakling.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
But
it's
she's
still
not.
struggling with.
She's not where she needs to be, especially with a certain game coming out later this year. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like I have to, and turned on, but didn't turn on all the way, so I had to force restart her, and she finally came on, which was good. But
Hold up. There's a couple big things coming out this year. What are you talking about?
Oh, the Unreal Engine version.
Oh, okay.
Nerds.
I just see what you mean. Okay.
We all know I have an obsession with Arc. But it's one of those. It's like I have to start looking at computers, and I'm the type of person where I understand why people build their computers, and that is wonderful, and that is fine. But if it's only going to save me like $200 to $300, I don't see the point.
No, if that's the price point and they're not charging you a markup on the parts, because there are assemblers who will give you a good deal on the parts and charge you a fair amount of money for the build. Okay.
Yeah.
It's totally worth it to have somebody who knows what they're doing, manage all the cable routing and make everything perfect and do the burn in and send it to you in a box. And all you have to do is press the on button. There's no shame in having pros do this stuff.
Yeah. It's one of those, it's like also because of the way Amazon is, and because I have Amazon Prime, Amazon now offers like payment plans without interest involved.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and I'm not the type of person where I don't, and this is not me trying to brag for anybody in chat, but it's not like I don't have the money to pay it outright. I don't like having to if I don't need to, because one, it gives me a bargaining chip if something does go wrong, because I can go, well, I'm not just going to not get paid you the rest of the payments unless you fix what's broken. Or it gives me at least the ability to make sure I don't spend a large chunk of money, so I have money for if something goes sideways in real life beyond the computer. So it's one of those things where it's like, I'm going through Amazon, but I've looked at all the sellers they have. I know which ones that come out pretty good. I look at ratings, I look at all that stuff, and now I'm just kind of debating which one.
Well, hopefully I'm not blowing too much sunshine up your skirt here, but you've always struck me as the kind of person that would be sensible with money.
I try to be.
Yeah, so the fact that you have enough, if you're sensible with money and you have enough money to buy a computer, that doesn't seem like that big a flex. I wouldn't worry about it that much.
Yeah, it's just, but some of the game computers can get up to $3,000, and I ain't paying that much. Not a chance.
Yeah, I shouldn't
tell you how much I cost when I built.
I was talking to some people about a month ago, and one of them had just got laid off, and the other one, wasn't making a ton of money, and these are just like people that live near me, and I was just being sociable. Okay. They're not like close friends or anything. And they, what did they do? They immediately decided, oh, well, I'm not working. Might as well just go on vacation to go spend a week in Vegas. If I was living sort of paycheck to paycheck, the last thing in the world I would do is go spend a week in Vegas if I didn't have any money coming in.
That isn't any kind of investment down the line to like make more money.
It is if you do it right.
Oh,
I mean, on top of computers, that's why I spend so much money on my computers, because it's how I make money.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, getting a pre-built system. Well, if you don't know what you're doing, that's a perfectly easy route to go. Just make sure that a lot of the stuff is modular, so that if you need to not spend as much on memory or a video card or whatever, now down the line you can go and be like, okay, well, I got a job or whatever, came in this money, and I'm going to buy that, fancy 4080 or whatever.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I've been paying attention to, because a lot of the systems don't. Once again, anyone who's played Arc, how big those fucking files are, and like it's like half a terabyte, all the maps and everything with Arc. It's almost
Serenity, the used GPU market is looking pretty damn good these days.
Oh yeah, it's the reason why I like the pre-built by companies that aren't like HP or anything like that, but like the other companies like iBuyPower and CyberPower and stuff like that, because their stuff is still able where you can take the side off. I can add a hard drive if I want to add it, or an SSD, or I can add more RAM, and that's part of what I've made sure I've looked into to really, because I don't want because a lot of times on Amazon they'll show you like the side of the computer where you can see through the panel.
Yeah,
this way I can see if they have any openings.
Add blinky lights.
You want to use those types of builders online, because it's like going to your mom and pop shop computer store in your own town and going, hey, I want to build a computer, and it's better than. Don't buy HP. Don't buy Alienware or whatever. You're going to be paying out the butt.
Well, we have to finish up our hellos because we got people waiting in the wings. So let me move on to, because I mean honestly, we could talk about computers for 2 hours, and maybe we will after the show.
And if Skep starts talking about Trek, show's over.
Sora Luna, if that is in fact your real fake name. Hi, Sora.
think she left us.
Did she leave us?
She didn't say anything.
Okay.
But
Canadian
might be- it
internet.
also might
Be
be Canadian
damned.
internet.
Okay, Skep.
Yes.
Hi,
How are
Skep.
you doing, Harry?
It
Nice
was
to see you.
It was so warm here today.
How warm was
How
it?
warm was it? When I got home, I thought, man, it feels a little warm in the house. And I went to the hallway. It was 76 degrees. I had to turn on a
You're talking
fan.
to somebody who has no air conditioning.
I know,
rather
and
warm
it's
down
been like has it finally dropped below triple digits for you guys, or are you going for some
No,
new
it's still-
bizarre record?
100, 107,
Holy
105,
crap.
107 every day. And with no air conditioning, it's very, very warm.
Any word on when you might get air conditioning again?
Yeah, Tuesday. They're
Okay.
coming out with an entire new external unit.
Yeah.
We can get it to run for a little while at a time, but eventually it just craps out.
Mm.
And it's always on the startup. Draws too many amps. You know, it's too big, too old. Doesn't work anymore. You know, it just you would spend so much money rehabbing the inside of that to make it turn easy, and basically put a new motor in it. That's why you buy a new thing.
I think you're off axis on your microphone.
Oh, can you not hear me?
Well, you just disappeared for a second. You sound great now.
All right.
That's cool. Well, let's see.
Get right up on my microphone here so
Cool.
you can hear my dulcet tones.
Nice, Barry. Hi, Sora.
Hello.
Howdy. So we're going to talk about sea otters later, right?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, I don't want you to wear out.
Face-eating
I don't want
ones.
you to wear out your vocal cords talking about not sea otters. But how is everything?
Oh, where apparently there's going to be a heat wave coming in this week, so not looking forward to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
supposed to
went
be
to the beach
warming
for
up
the
on.
first time this summer yesterday, so that was nice.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Had you
I
never
don't
seen it before?
I live by it. I just don't
Oh.
go to the beach.
Oh, I
Yeah.
You know, it's the curse of living by something nice. You just
Oh,
don't
yeah.
go.
Yeah, it's 5 miles from Pikes Peak, and I went to the top exactly one time in the 3 years I lived there.
There's a bunch of stuff like that around here I've never even gone to because I'm like, it's not going anywhere. You know?
Yeah, you do tend to do that. I can understand
yeah,
that.
it's the
Although
first time this
if I
summer
lived where
for
you
me.
live, I'd be all over. There's so much cool stuff to go see there.
You sent me an article link right before the show. This is the thing: BC fusion machine in development with goal of zero emission energy.
Yes.
That's the best kind of energy, I've been told. All
It's
right.
something, according to the article and the guys of this company, they're looking for a deadline of 2025. And they're going to... I don't really know how this kind of energy works, but according to them, it's more efficient because they're crushing the energy as they're heating it up
It's like regular fusion, but it's totally extreme.
to the extreme.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it says here, most people put this very hot gas in a donut with some big magnets. We do that, but we crush it. Other people don't crush it. When you crush something, it gets denser and it gets hotter, so the fusion happens faster. Hey there, Mr. Scientist Guy. Don't, you got to dumb it down a little for me or I'm not going to follow what you're saying. a little short on details there, buddy. Okay. No, I mean, that's fine. All right.
This is, it's written for the extra lower common denominator, I think.
Well,
Even-
we should probably just sort of put a pin in this and then see if anything comes of it.
Yeah,
and then
no,
check
it was
back on
mostly it's like, hey, something exciting is happening here that is not just, we're going to cut off all natural resources like our natural gas resource, and we're going to make everybody do electric vehicles that run on batteries made with coal that
Whee!
apparently is totally green,
Yeah. I hear we can there's a natural thing called peat moss. We combine that with some sort of steam cycle and then we've really got something going. So we can use peat moss powered
Nice.
like Flintstones cars. Hi Kefki. Oh. Kefki's muted.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's okay. It's okay. Y'all were talking about computers. I don't know how you feel. My laptop is not turning on.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I not sure what's wrong with it. Well, I kind of have an idea. We had a really bad storm come through, and then it knocked out the electricity. And then it just, I think it got, my laptop.
You always want to plug them in when the storm's coming.
Yeah. So I saw something the other day, and I thought of you.
Hey.
Here's a mug. It says, "It's a great day for a ferret heist." Now, why would there be such a thing? You know, why would there be? It also comes in mousepad version. So there's a book by a writing team. It's a husband and wife named Alana Andrews, and the second book is, I think, White Hot. What?
No, I got you.
I thought Serenity made a comment, and I was just ready for it. There's a in the second book, it's sort of an alternate universe where this person has magical powers. They need to accomplish something. So what they do is they use like special animal mind control to send ferrets to go execute a heist.
Nice.
I'm not suggesting you need to start reading Alona Andrews books, but there is a book that exists where magic is used to have ferrets steal something.
Well, I could have a ferret do that right now if I wanted. It's very easy. You just set it on the ground or put it in their line of eyesight, and it's gone.
Well, yeah. I mean, do you have to tie a ham to it with a little string, or
no. See, I could wad up a piece of paper, throw it in the floor. If the ferret sees it, that's gonna be gone. It's gonna be stashed under the bed in the nest.
I think this heist was a little more involved, but
That's exactly.
I don't know if you're ever interested in buying a mug that's got this written on it. I'll send you the link.
Thank you. Yeah,
all right,
that's adorable.
Anyway, let's see. I guess we should actually start the show, right? Yes, we absolutely should start the show.
Have you gone live yet?
Of course, we've gone live.
Okay.
Yes, I hope so. Let me check. Yeah, no, we're here.
Said it wasn't that easy.
Green Badger Outdoors, SkepTok, if that is his real name, Sora Luna, Assassin, Richard Head. Let's see, Green Badger again, DrFunctional. All right, cool. Well, we got people here. Awesome, thank you. So we've been talking about Otter 841, the otter that climbs on people's surfboards and steals them and gnaws on them and is generally not particularly afraid of humans and has some sort of tendency to attack surfers and surfboards. And so I figured, this can be our white whale. This can be our thing that we chase until there's nothing left to chase.
The Republican otter.
So Otter 841. So as I was looking for this, I was curious how old Otter 841 is. The answer is 5 years old. So the otter was actually...
We know this.
Because it was raised in it was born in captivity. And tagged. So we know when it was born. We have a record of...
So we raise and train otters to go and bite surfers?
Not quite. So Sora's going to tell us a little bit about the raising part of it. But this is a video, and I was trying to find information about 841's childhood to see, if she was really a bad kid and that kind of thing. And I couldn't find like a birth record for 841 particularly, but I did find this video, which I think you'll like. Let's see. Let's go back to the beginning. Yeah, thank you.
A cuddly surprise had guests at the Monterey Bay Aquarium crowding the outer deck today, all trying to get a look at the newborn otter pup. Action News reporter Bryn Whitaker stopped by the aquarium. She brings us the story.
This furry fluffball took in its first few hours of life in the calm waters of the Monterey Bay Aquarium's open ocean tide pool. The otter baby quickly became the center of attention. It was cuteness overload.
The otter.
Human kids aren't nearly as cute. But yeah, at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, they have like a little area where otters can come to sort of get away from the bad weather, and they can have their babies there if they want, not being buffeted by the sea and that sort of thing. But in addition to that, they actually take otters in and raise them and then re-release them back out into the wild. And so I handed Sora an article and said, hey, do you want to talk about this? And I think you said yes. So tell us a little bit about the process of raising otters and the other part around it.
So basically this this program that they have started from the 70s, because what happened is this whole down the southern coast of California, the otters were almost hunted to extinction during the fur trading years, etc. So without them there was all sorts of other issues in terms of local populations, of other, fauna that they would eat naturally, kind of getting in the way and overpopulating. So they got kind of protection designation in the 70s, and everything was kind of going okay until forward all the way to 2001. So what specifically this article is talking about is how they realized that giving a sea otter pup to a sea otter mom to be surrogate mother or foster mother is actually more beneficial than hand raising pups that they discovered. So sometimes, you have orphans from the wild that they try to rehabilitate, or they have rejected pups from mother otters that are bred in their program. And when hand raised, the problem with that is that they become too dependent on humans, etc. Right? Like same like with anything. But with the mothers, surrogate mothers, and through this program, they found that they are able to teach them how to groom themselves, how to communicate about otter society, how the structures, everything's very, very cute. And the humans in turn try to stay hidden as much as possible to limit the interaction between human and otter. The idea being that regardless of the fact they understand, they can smell them, and they're very smart and curious, so they're kind of aware that humans are there. We try to do as hands-off as possible approach. And if it's possible, if there's a lactating mother, to try to introduce a pup to that mother, and that tends to grow a healthier pup. And that's helped a lot. There has been a boom in the health of surrogate pups, and then being able to return them back into the wild and re-release them. So this is all the fun stuff about what they've been doing for the past 20 odd years in this particular aquarium, where I believe this is the exact same one that our friend comes from.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 841, when 841 was growing up, did not have a lot of contact with humans as far as we know. So if anybody's thinking...
They actually posit in the article that the way that she is acting, it's almost and like what people are saying, it's coming so close to people. It's a combination of personality, right, and her own being unique little otter, but also it's very possible that people have been feeding her. Because they themselves in this program, as mentioned, are trying to hide that there's humans in the area. So obviously, like with any kind of aquarium or zoo or anything, they're kind of there, but they put enough of barriers, or however they try to lessen the impact of humans in their enclosure as much as possible, so they don't get reliant on the smell of a human equaling food, which is a big thing in their program. So her approaching them so dead on, it can be a sign that at some point people were feeding. Because one of the big problems is where humans tend to be is exactly the level of shoreline that sea otters tend to live. So this is another cause of possible conflict.
Yeah, and fisher people don't like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because they eat they eat the crabs, the little like wormies, anything that would be very good bait for fish is what they would like to snack on, and they get into, they'll destroy nets and stuff like that.
Well, I think you've been known to eat sushi on occasion, Sora. I don't know if you like uni, but I know that Japanese people love uni. And a lot of the sea urchin from California is harvested, and much of it is shipped to Japan. So if you go to Japan, I want to get the fresh uni. No, you can get fresher uni in California at the right sushi bars than you can in Japan, because a lot of it comes from here. Okay, and what sea otters love to do is eat that. They love eating sea urchins. So we're not talking about a low value product either here. There's a lot of money in sea urchins. So it's kind of important to keep an eye on the fisher people so that they don't just kill these otters because they're challenging their livelihood. So I guess the question is, what's the right number of otters? There was something maybe it was in a different article, but they were making the point that without otters, there are too many of these different species that damage the kelp forest. It's like, well, we drove the otters practically to the point of extinction until they found...
I had
Sorry?
I misread the article earlier, but it's from this one. It's basically the sea urchins. By nearly driving the otters into extinction, you tip the balance of the sea urchins into overpopulation, which in turn they destroy the kelp forests, which in turn destroy the microbiomes in that area. And then we are now through this surrogacy program and the rehabilitation, trying to tip it back the other way. And protecting, because they will hide in the kelp forests, right? Yeah. So they want those. So everything is good. But to your question, no. I've tried urchin once because I want to try, and it tastes exactly like what they are, a bottom feeder.
It tastes like you're chewing on a swimming pool filter that hasn't been changed for a very long time. It's unpleasant.
It's a reason why I don't like lake fish or freshwater fish.
Yeah.
They all taste muddy.
Me either. They all taste
so
bad.
it's the same thing.
Except
so
for
if
catfish.
anyone out there is wondering what it tastes like.
Catfish,
I am
just soak it in
country as
milk.
I am country as hell because I love freshwater fish.
Hey, Serenity?
Yeah, bass and catfish is good.
A lot of freshwater fish is not very good. Like if you just go fishing, like go to the lake, right? Get a boat, go to the lake. All that shit has been stocked. And and the stuff that's been stocked and then dumped in the lake is totally different than the stuff that you get that's wild. And I didn't realize it until I was a kid. Went hiking 4 miles up this side of this mountain with my dad, and he wanted to go prospecting where people hadn't been for a long time. So we go up this huge, stupid mountain, 4 miles up, and while we're doing this, we can catch fish, and you catch these trout, and you cut them open, and they look like salmon inside. It's not that pale, anemic, hi, I've been eating Purina fish chow all my life.
Yeah, that's the type that we get around here because we go down creeks and stuff.
Oh, yeah, the wild stuff.
Bigger,
any kind of fish that hasn't been stocked or farmed, the freshwater stuff is like a whole different animal.
Okay.
I mean,
because I was like, gosh darn.
Yeah. So a lot of times when people don't like freshwater fish, it's because so much of it's farmed and it's just not as good as the wild stuff.
I also love crawfish.
Personal opinion, I mean, Functional may be biting his tongue right now because he thinks I'm saying something really stupid, but I've caught a lot of crawdads.
With urchin, it's more about the roe. I don't like the urchin either,
That's fair.
But the roe is very tasty. It's very buttery. I do understand what you mean by when you say it tastes like a bottom feeder, because it's got a lot of oceaniness to it, even though it's like inside.
I like that phrase, oceaniness.
Oceaniness.
I don't know. It tastes like the ocean.
Yeah, I get you. That makes sense.
I'm not a big fan personally, but
it's as if it came from the ocean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I love fish. I do the suck the brains out thing, giggity. Like it's just that's the way I am. We got crawfish boils around here.
Sounds good to me. Crawfish boil. Hey, nothing wrong with
Do you
that.
suck head? Do you suck the heads? Do you suck the heads, Serenity?
Yep, especially the big ones.
The butter of the crab.
The big wet one.
Yeah. All right. So, update on X. We talked about the about the Sikh guys who got tired of this guy stealing all their Newport lights because he's costing them a small fortune. And he had done it multiple times. I believe this was the third time, and they decided, well, 3 times and you get some strikes. And so
The fact that
they
they were
caned
that nice
this
to give him
guy.
3 times is impressive.
It is impressive because Sikhs usually won't put up with that crap, nor should they. But there was some word going around that the DA was looking into pressing charges on those guys, and it's Stockton. This isn't San Francisco. This isn't San Diego. It's not Los Angeles. And so the DA there is like, yeah, it's fine. We're not looking at these guys.
It's in Central California.
It's central.
Okay.
It's one of the more red parts of California. So they just said, yeah, this is fine. These guys are okay. Moving on. So I'm happy that these guys
He's
are not
suing
being
them,
prosecuted. Good for him.
them.
Good for him. What, for lost wages?
And it,
There's a humor
for,
there.
For infliction of mental distress and various other things that has to be made whole.
Good.
yeah, the guy who got the crap beat out of him.
Good. I will be happy, and I mean this in all sincerity, to donate to their legal fund to defend on this.
All this is a lawyer who wanted a little publicity said to this guy, hey, you can sue these guys. I'll represent you if we have a good case. Let me do an analysis. This guy just blabbed it out, and the attorney got some free publicity. He'll drop this guy.
Yeah.
There will be no lawsuit.
Yeah, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But if there is one and it's a problem, I'll happily donate to the Sikhs guy's defense. I can throw 20 or 30 bucks at him.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, every little bit helps, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely right.
All right, moving on. Let's see. Oh, well, there was the terrible fire in Lahaina, and we don't need to rehash this because, I mean, everybody is probably talked this thing to death.
Fire is bad.
Fire is bad. Now, I didn't understand how a Hawaiian island could end up having a fire like this. Now, admittedly, they are in type 1 and type 2 drought conditions because it hasn't rained there for a while. And they are largely just dependent on rainfall. I think this probably sounds a little familiar to Sora. It's like when it rains most of the time, you don't really plan for it not raining. So it's like, because you guys went to, was it stage 2 water restrictions in the drop of a hat practically, Sora?
Yeah.
Well, Maui for freshwater, where does the fresh water come from? Rain. And they haven't had any for a while and stuff was kind of dry. And the wind kicked up. I mean, a hellacious wind. And the wind basically was behind the fire, pushing it to the town of Lahaina, which was the biggest town in Oahu. And a big chunk of Lahaina, not all of it, a big chunk of it is just gone. And they lost, I think, about 80 people last I've heard. About 80 people
Last time
died.
I heard it was 55, but it could be 80 at this point.
It was 80 last time I checked earlier today, and it's probably even going to be more than that. This was pretty terrible. I'm not really sure this is a good conversation topic because where do you go from here other than this sucks and we're sorry?
Well, as I look at these pictures of Lahaina, this looks like what happens in a war. This place is just erased. It is at the houses have burned to ground level. That there you can see where the town used to be. You can see where the houses used to be, and they are down to the foundation.
And it's interesting you say that because the conspiracy theorists are saying that it was a beam weapon.
Of course, they always
was-
do. Same thing. Same thing.
Wait, a what? A beam?
Yeah.
Jewish space lasers.
Yeah.
Well, they're claiming they're Chinese lasers. They were claiming it
whatever.
was America doing it to ourselves because, sure.
Of course.
Yeah. So,
Oh.
so they're claiming it was a beam weapon, and I'm like sitting here going, okay, let's think about this for 5 seconds. They would more likely, if it is the conspiracy theory, once again, YouTube conspiracy theory, not agreeing with it. I think they're stupid, but we're going with it.
We all think they're stupid. Don't worry.
Yeah. But if they're going to hit a place, they're not going to hit a massively blue state like Hawaii. They're going to hit a red area like around where I live. Mind you, we have too much rain.
Unless they're playing the long game.
Yeah.
That's a long ass game.
I mean, I see those.
Unless they're playing the long game.
You know, those inscrutable Chinese communists.
I see those conspiracy theorists the same way I look fondly back at the people of like Pompeii when Vesuvius exploded, going, "Oh, don't worry, we'll just keep praying to the gods, everything will be fine." And then afterwards, they were like, "Oh, the gods are angry; they smote the entire place."
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Also, like a lot. Well, it's also like Lahaina. Like the problem is that one, it was the drought conditions, but also a lot of those houses that went are literally like the style of houses that they have for people who don't have a lot of money in Hawaii, which are usually matchsticks. Like they're those houses just go up like
given the climate
nothing.
they live in, and
And it doesn't excuse the deaths, and I'm not saying it does. I'm just, once again, I'm saying that for YouTube. I'm not that anybody here thinks I'm saying that. But it's like, and they have palm trees which burn really easy, especially in drought conditions. Like it was the perfect storm of just
being full of palm oil and all.
there you go.
Lamp oil, for God's sake.
Yeah. So it was just this like perfect storm of just shit.
Yeah. One thing people have to look at the economic aspect of this. Hawaii's Office of Consumer Protection has instituted a price freeze for all commodities on the island of Maui, and so they've got 1,000 people missing. They can't find. They think death toll's like 100 people right now, but it's going to be a lot higher than that. Anyway, this price freeze is scheduled to be in effect at least, for a month or two. And it means that commodities have to be sold at pre-emergency prices. You can't gouge for fuel. You can't overcharge for food or water or ice or gasoline, cook fuel, batteries, generators, medical supplies, construction materials. They've got it all covered. They said that Maui's historic resort town of Lahaina has been largely reduced to ashes. I can't believe it. It's just gone. It is just gone. He says when you see the governor of Hawaii, Josh Green, was looking at it, he said that Lahaina is tragically gone. When you see the full extent of the destruction in Lahaina, it will shock you. It does appear like a bomb and a fire went off. It's just gone. And those are the pictures I'm seeing support that. Yeah. And anyway, this guy called on hotel owners and homeowners to, take in the residents who needed, and everybody's saying the same thing, that it looks like a war zone and so forth and so on. Oprah Winfrey, who is a Maui resident, visited an evacuation center on the island's north side Thursday, where she handed out pillows, shampoo, diapers, and sheets. And Winfrey said she had visited the site earlier to ask evacuees what they needed.
Did she take Gail with her?
I have no idea. Or that poor cuck.
I don't even know. I honestly don't even know why that's funny. But Skep, I just know that it is. But Skep, when I saw it, the thing that it reminded me a little bit of was a tornado path. Because you could see huge paths of destruction. Okay, just forget the char for a moment, but huge paths of destruction down to the foundation. And then next to it, nothing. There were buildings that were completely intact. I got the distinct impression, now maybe it was just the wind, but I got the distinct impression that a lot of the newer stuff stayed up and a lot of the classic old town sort of stuff just burned out. Because that's the only way you see, because when you looked at the newer stuff, it wasn't made of wood. I'm seeing like stucco and concrete and cement. And
it's prefab concrete is the cheapest way to raise a building in Hawaii. And believe me, that it doesn't burn.
Yeah. And the roof was not flammable either.
Yeah.
Again, we're not blaming anybody. It's just that it's not surprising that the older buildings burned and the newer buildings didn't.
They're all made of wood.
Well, that problem's going to be solved. They're all going to be new soon.
Yeah, exactly.
It's unfortunate, but it happens.
It's really sad, though.
Sorry, Serenity, what are you saying?
Well, it's just, and on top of this, there's been this big pushback recently from Hawaiian residents for tourists not to come, and this was because we want to be, that whole thing where they're like, we want to be independent. Should be Hawaiians, blah 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 bullshit, and they're doing better tourism wise, but they're still down from what they usually used to have before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like their tourism board, from the rumors, is on the brink of collapse from infighting. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like this hitting a tourism town when they're already having tourism issues, because you have a group of people who say don't come to Hawaii because we don't want you here. Like I think Hawaii is going to be hurt financially real bad. If they aren't already hurting, which I'm assume they are, this is going to hurt even more. So it's going to get interesting here in the next couple months.
All right, are we good on this topic? We ready to move on?
Sure.
Nope.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't mean to run with it.
My job is to keep you guys talking and interested for 2 hours. Your job is not to accommodate my stupid schedule. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Let's see. Okay, I wanted to complain about this briefly.
Please.
Let's see. No audio.
Oh God.
School in
Day
Alabama
school.
has installed a new safety system that can
Oh, that's
transform
Oh,
whiteboards
yeah.
into shelters for students and teachers. The whiteboards are attached to the wall and can fold out and create a bulletproof room that can fit up to 60 children or 20 adults. The system is designed to protect against natural disasters and active school shooter situations. The school has invested 6 figures
Yeah.
into 2 of these whiteboards, which
It
can be
was a money
deployed in
grab.
seconds when needed. The doors lock from the inside, and there are no door handles on the outside. Considering there was
You
46
saw how long it took her to
Yeah.
open that up. All the kids in that classroom's dead.
Yeah.
Dead.
Well,
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, when is it going to happen? How did the children die? Well, they evidently were trapped in one of these school shooter things, and the firemen couldn't get to them when the school went up in flames. That something like that will happen.
Oh yeah.
yeah. Well, there's a
So-
simpler answer. I'm sorry, but you go, Sora, and then I'll
I was gonna
pontificate.
say what my high school. I can't even remember which was the big school shooting that happened that prompted this from the States. But what my high school did was they cut windows in all the doors because we had no windows in the doors of the classrooms. So like you couldn't tell if anyone was going to come down the hallway. So their idea was we got windows in all the doors. We
Mhm.
have each door is lockable from the inside, and one lock cannot open from the outside without destroying the door, which would give you enough time to call 911 and hope the rest of the school gets evacuated should there be anybody on campus.
Hope you don't live in Uvalde, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, and the way it was angled, depending on the classroom, is most of the time people would be able to kind of push against one of the walls and be mostly obscured by the door. So that was what they did
Well, I mean,
in my high school
okay.
in response to the shootings in the States.
So were the windows and the doors smaller than a human being who's not in
Could
Cirque
get
du
through.
Soleil could climb through?
I'm trying to remember. It was like, yeah, I would say maybe a very thin, flexible little person probably get through.
Yeah. So other than Cirque du
But-
Soleil, nobody's getting through that window. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I guess that's like a plan. But anytime you're dealing with security, physical security, which is what we're talking about, you have to look at concentric rings of security. And one of the big takeaways from Uvalde and a number of these other shootings was somebody got inside that wasn't supposed to. That
Yeah.
outer ring of security failed because somebody wanted to go have a smoke break, and then they taped over the automatically locking door, or they propped it
So-
open, and then and then the shooter comes in and does all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
Now there was a story.
That's exactly how it would have happened if it would have happened in my high school, because there was
Yeah.
literally the side door that we all went out of to sneak off of campus at lunchtime
Yeah,
when you weren't supposed to, if you weren't one of the grades where you were allowed to leave campus. So that there was something wrong with the door frame. So unless you actually pulled it closed, doesn't matter if it automatically locked, it would not. It was like it was swollen or something, the door frame, so it didn't close. So you didn't even have to tape it shut or anything. It for some reason it didn't trigger. There was a door open, and also our security cameras. It was a dead zone. So
good planning.
it was good planning, and it stayed like that. I think they fixed it after I graduated.
But 6 figures for 2 classrooms is kind of ridiculous. It's like
That's-
you really need to start with like step 1, that outer ring of security. There was a story in the news recently, and I couldn't find it. I went back looking for it and I couldn't
It
find
was
it.
a Jewish school where the guy tried to get in and.
Oh,
they had
good.
locked
You
the door.
know about it then. So can you briefly
Yeah.
describe what happened?
I want to say it was in New York. It probably was, or it was New York or Chicago. But it was basically a guy was trying to get into I think it was either Jewish elementary or Jewish middle school. And they have like how a lot of modern high schools have one set of doors, then you have a little tiny foyer, and then you have another set of doors where you have to be either buzzed in or you have to know the way to get in, like through a code or something like that. He went through the first set of doors. People could see him. He tried to get in, and nobody would let him in. No one would buzz him in. They're like, no, you're not coming in. And he left in a huff and fired the gun in the air a couple times, which is the reason why the cops went after him. Like, he may have been able to get away with it if he hadn't done that. And then I believe that he's still in custody. So I don't know if it actually was New York. But
no. This was a Tennessee man who tried to enter a Jewish school with a gun, fired shots at a construction worker there, and later pointed his weapon at police before an officer wounded him on a residential street.
If you wound him, it just creates a lot of unnecessary paperwork.
Yeah.
It
It said a shocking incident occurred in Memphis, Tennessee on Monday when Joel Bowman, 33, attempted to enter the Margolin Hebrew Academy Feinstone Yeshiva of the South School with a gun. He was denied entry, leading to a violent confrontation with a construction worker and later with police. The incident left the community in shock and raised concerns about security measures in places where Jewish people gather. Anyway, that's what happened.
Yeah. And honestly, as far as that, I'm not saying you shouldn't do stuff inside the school, but simple money, small amounts of money well applied to the outer ring of the concentric rings of security, combined with some common sense stuff done inside, is a much better bang for the buck. Sorry for the sorry for that. Than $100,000 plus per classroom to build whatever the hell this death chamber of whiteboards that they're trying to set up. This is just, we're not going to list the ways you could circumvent this thing, but they're definitely there. And if we can think of them without even trying, I mean, somebody who's really motivated is going to come up with something too. This just seems like a terrible idea, but we don't need to talk about this anymore.
Thank you.
Hi, Kefki.
Okay. Nothing.
Did you want to say something?
No, otters were hurt.
Gonna say that Badger had a really great idea that they could hire some of the mini combat vets in this country for security.
Yep.
That would be freaking amazing.
And it would be a no-brainer, wouldn't it? I mean, any sensible person would just do that.
I don't know why they don't do that. That's just
Yeah.
A lot of veterans can't even get jobs as cops.
That's awful. That makes me mad too. I'm not going to get into the spiel about that, but I do hate the disrespect that people have toward veterans. Sorry.
Don't you think it would also be beneficial for the veterans, not just financially, but just imagining using my empathy muscles here. I think if you went off and you saw a lot of really hard to deal with stuff, coming back and being part of something as positive as this, protecting the next generation, would feel pretty damn good. And I think not just as a job, but I think just as a restorative thing for their soul after seeing so much terrible stuff, that actually protecting these kids would be just an amazing thing for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
But
the thing that really kind of boils my blood before we move on.
Sure.
The conflation of that's part of protecting kids in school with the natural disaster stuff. And there's not going to be a one size catch all. And this is to use the term liberal mindset here, is they want a one solution fits all sort of scenario where somebody in her school in Hurricane Alley somewhere is going to need different solutions to potential disaster problems than somebody in Florida, where flooding, tsunami things are more at the top of my mind, whereas opposed to a hurricane, have a basement, done. That's one solution for that. You couldn't use that solution in, say, Florida, because the flooding, where's it going? It's going down. It's going to go into that basement. Mm-hmm. So you need a different solution. So tailoring solutions to the problems, it's always the better solution in my mind. And conflating them and combining them is just so silly and enraging.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to build a nuclear reactor and it's next to the ocean, maybe don't put the emergency generators in the basement. Just saying.
Yeah.
That was Fukushima, right? By the way.
Yeah.
But like what Sora said, like most of the teachers in schools do not have the strength to pull that kind of door. You saw that one. It can be deployed in seconds. Lying sack of crap.
Yeah.
20 minutes later.
Well, it's like it's also that kind of jointing that you have to do to have that kind of metal be able to bend to like do that kind of right angle joint. If you don't do that like once a week to make sure that you oil the joints or check up on them, they'll lock, and then you can't get it to move again until someone takes a hammer to it or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like unless they're doing drills once a week and you actually have a janitorial staff who will check the joints, the hinges, like you're when the shit
so
comes down, it ain't happening.
There's so much more work and effort and prep and everything and maintenance than hiring security. We have security for everything else.
Just lock the damn door.
School.
Just lock the door.
Lockable doors.
Please.
Don't they have in certain countries and stuff? Don't they have like locking gates on the
Japan
school
has
property?
locking gates. Korea does
Like not
too.
just the building itself, but yeah, exactly, like
have the
courtyard
locking
gates.
Yeah.
So
It's
you
like-
have to be in before you're late, kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like my high school. My high school has a foyer, like a big one where it has a double set of doors and then has a big foyer where all the principals and the secretary's office is right there, and they can see a person if they do get past the two front doors, walk in before they see them, and they're behind like thick glass. Because my school was built, the high school I went to was built like just around the time Columbine happened. So they did a lot of stuff in the building to make sure that like they could make sure that no one could get into certain things. And those were the only doors that were unlocked during school time. So 1, we had security on site. 2, they made sure that they could see people who walked in before they could see them. And 3, they had to walk about a good portion of the way into the school before they could even get to the cafeteria if kids were even in a group, like to even get to kids to hit them or anything like that. And 2 of our, because my school, every grade had a vice principal and then there was an overarching main principal. 2 of the vice principals were ex-military. So it was one of those things, and it's West Virginia. I dare you.
Yeah.
So
Good
it
job.
was like no one came to my school, and we were like 3,000. We were 3,000 students. So it's one of those things. There is ways to do it that is a lot cheaper and a lot better, but I think that was just a cash grab by someone who saw a bunch of scared people. And
I invented something. If
Yeah,
you like
it's just
children, you'll pay me money. And it's like, no solar freaking
Your mom
roadways, no bulletproof whiteboards. This is all stupid. Anyway,
Yep.
I feel like
Solyndra.
we need a palate cleanser, right? I think
Yeah,
we all
please.
agree after
Sure,
talking about
agree.
that.
Dog days of
Theranos.
summer, and some of our furry friends were cooling off today in Pacifica. The World
you.
Dog Surfing
Even though this is so
Championships
cute.
kicked off this morning at Lindemar Beach.
is so
Thousands gathered in the morning fog
World
to
Dog
watch their
Surfing
four-legged surf
Championships.
stars
Oh,
take
it's a
to the
king- it's a
water.
King
The winner
Cavalier.
received the Golden Surfy Award.
So
But most
King
people
Charlie?
told us that being
I
top
think it
dog
was.
is more of a state of
it
mind.
looked like it was, but it was so wet. It's
It's a
hard to
difficult
say.
thing to learn how
Yeah, I
to
know.
do
It's-
for,
Yeah, it is.
for anybody,
Yeah.
let alone a dog. They do have one advantage. They have four-wheel
I
drive.
believe it's
But,
11. Oh my
you know,
god.
if they love the
That's the
water
marketing
and you're
for
the
it.
water and you love the water
And look at how old they're all
and you're
dressed. That's how
smiling,
cool it is
then
in
they're going to
California
just
right
start
now.
doing
And
stuff to, make it work out.
Definitely.
Their
the right
little life
marketing.
vests
Oh.
and leashes are so cute. There was also a dog fashion competition and plenty of pets up for
fashion
adoption too.
Oh. Anyway, so
Dogs are too good for us.
dogs are too good for us, and I like that story. By the way, Pacifica is a lovely little town. It's sort of how do I
Oh, yeah.
describe Pacifica? So it's south of San
Laid back and
Francisco,
weird.
on the coast, north of Half Moon Bay.
So laid back.
There is there's a barbecue place there that's in like an old rail car. Well, 2 of them put together, and it's called Gorilla Barbecue. Some guy basically quit his day job because it turned out he's really good at barbecue, and he's a big Paul Prudhomme looking guy. But man, they have aside from the fact that they just make legit barbecue. Why am I talking about barbecue again? I'm so freaking hungry. They take their macaroni and cheese and sort of put it like kind of part way into the smoker, and their mac and cheese for the
Yeah.
side
Yeah,
they
it's
have
smoked mac and
it's
cheese.
smoky
That's the
mac and
thing.
cheese, and it has crumbled
That's the thing.
goldfish crackers over the top of it.
Brenda-
Oh my
Brenda
God.
makes that.
Okay,
Brenda
okay.
Stuff is so
makes
off
that.
the
It's
hook.
amazing. My wife makes that. It's amazing.
Anyway, Pacific is a lovely
Amazingly
town.
American.
It's so awesome.
You haven't lived.
It tastes
You
like
haven't
craft dinner with smoke.
I mean, I want to try it. It just sounds very American.
A way to cheat at home
You
is
got to
use a
realize
little cheese.
this is with cheese and really high quality noodles. This isn't the mix you get. This is something that she creates. It's really pretty wonderful.
The only video I know of about them is an episode of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and we'll probably get copy struck into oblivion if I have the nerve to even touch that.
Don't even think about that.
Yeah, so that ain't gonna happen. But this, to me, is practically a palate cleanser. Okay.
Yeah.
It may not seem like a palate cleanser to most people, but I think this is a palate
compared
cleanser.
to what's coming up,
Improvised explosive device used to bomb tent full of homeless drug addicts in ongoing turf war near Seattle Hospital. Okay. Now,
Jeebus.
is it a good? Are you saying it's a good thing or a bad thing?
Wait, this is fantastic.
Where do we stand on this?
I'm totally pro meth dealers blowing up each other's stuff. I think that's
kind of good with it myself.
I mean, it kind of solves the problem, doesn't it?
It does. It takes care of something. So I want to just read a little bit from here so you get a sense of the flavor of this thing.
Yes.
Survivors told investigators that the former leader of the encampment, named Coconut, had recently been replaced, and as a result had come back with a firearm and shot at both the old smoking tent and the new smoking tent, and held the people inside the tents at gunpoint, robbing them of everything, in quotes. According to court filings, Coconut is connected to drug trafficking operations in the area, as was described in the report as a Pacific Islander / Asian male in his 50s with cornrow-style braids, with graying hair, wearing a gray t-shirt and tan cargo pants.
Not a typical.
Okay, hold on.
At all.
He was identified as Michael Bonito Shemp, 55, and is associated with a short white female with tan skin with the alias Monkey, who has been identified as a 39-year-old Michelle Desire Shemp. So a man named Coconut and his accomplice Monkey went back to their meth tent city and burned it. Basically, they put improvised explosive devices around it and blew the damn thing up. Now, luckily, the people did escape. So YouTube, this isn't gore. You can't come after me. Nobody died. But
did they blow themselves up at all?
they didn't blow themselves up. They did this little strike, and within days, people were already taking cans of gas and chemicals and stuff and rebuilding their meth complex.
Sure. As you do.
Yeah. Coconut and Monkey.
She's dying.
And I still like this image of this Asian Pacific Islander guy in his 50s with cornrows. It's like, what?
Gathering up the tools of their trade.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Utopia promised by Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
It's, sometimes it works itself out.
This is brought to you by the Chinese.
See, I hadn't actually looked at this.
The world finds a way.
Latest on the I-5 encampment fire from last Friday. My sources are telling me it was related to a drug turf war gone bad.
Yeah. I don't have the information.
Yeah. Good job, Mayor of Seattle.
It's quality debris, Mayor.
Okay. Let's see.
Bad dude. I'm sorry.
Oh, Corn Pop?
He's dying.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. I got that on my board. Let's see. What do we want to do next?
Coconut.
Don't forget to breathe, Kefki.
I am Coconut. See me in despair. Look on me.
So the next thing is pretty terrible, and it's going to make everybody kind of sort of. It's going to make everybody kind of mad.
Get the giggles out.
Okay. Remember hearing the name Clive Bundy, Skep?
Yes.
A UK man who was convicted of sexually abusing his daughter, adopted a transgender identity from prison, and will now use the name Claire Fox. Now, Claire Fox is a member of the House of Lords in the UK who's actively campaigned against transgender issues. Okay. So not only has Clive Bundy, terrible, horrible sack of shit human being who doesn't really deserve oxygen, is he not only going to be released from prison, but by claiming that he's now Claire Fox, because of the way the law is set up in the UK, when somebody goes to do a background search on him/her, they will not see all of the terrible things that this person has done. They're using this as a loophole, to basically avoid ending up on any of the registries and lists and things, because their criminal record disappears, because that's what their dead name did. This is so ridiculous.
In front of you, Britain is dissolving. It's really changing.
Right.
Really, truly changing.
Yeah.
They need to still be in prison. This is not right. It should follow them.
Yeah, I can't even say most of the things that this piece of shit did. I mean, there's like bad people in this world, and then this is like, he's like one of the really bad ones.
And we don't want to
go with the wood chipper.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, this guy's wood chipper.
This guy shouldn't be let out, first of all. And second of all, the fact that he can basically claim transgender status, and it's as if all of his sins have been washed away as far as the public is concerned, is insane. They should not let they should not let people like this use laws that are designed to, help people with gender identity problems to cynically use them.
Have a nice day, Claire. No, you're not moving anywhere. You're in the concrete box.
We think you're a lying piece of shit trying to work the system, so your name is Clive. You just don't get to do this. You can still wear the outfit, but we're still going to call you Clive, because there's no way we're letting you out from under your record.
Clive.
But the record should follow. Even if they change the name, they change everything else. Okay, it should be okay. So this is this person, but they used to be this asshole, and this is what they did under this name. This is what they did, and
no, agreed. But England's worked themselves into a corner, and I think a lot of people either don't want to get out of the corner or don't know how to get out of the corner.
Well, there's a comment. There's a comment from the daughter who was abused, right? And I can read that.
I'm sure she's pissed.
By being allowed to keep his change of identity a secret if he so wishes, my father, Clive Bundy, is being permitted to divorce himself and his name from the heinous crimes he committed against me, she said, according to the Daily Mail. I was abused as a child by a man who now identifies as a woman, and I only know, the victim only knows, because he allowed them to tell me. It's just appalling that his right to privacy seems to overrule any rights I have as a victim.
Yep.
Told you this was going to make you angry.
That's sick.
Yeah, I don't even know why I put shit like this in the show sometimes, except for the fact that if I'm going to be pissed off, I figure I need company.
So, the thing about somebody like Clive Bundy is when he's sentenced, they should say this prisoner is going to have special handling. This prisoner can be transsexual. We can, support them and all that stuff, but they're still going to be by themselves for the rest of their lives. We're going to put them in a concrete box and feed them food. They will exit that concrete box when they are dead. That's what they should do with this person. I'm really not kidding.
It's a box made of whiteboards, but this one's locked from the outside.
Yeah. I mean,
this one doesn't have a door.
If he holds to pattern, this is a very sad thing to say, but if the type of person he is and the type of people who do this kind of crap, he's basically going to use the identity change to probably torment his victim. Because if she tries to call the cops, they're going to be like, well, we don't have any record of this being so-and-so. She's like, no, you don't understand. That was the person who did this crap to me. And they'll be like, sorry, we don't have that name on record as doing anything. Because British police are already mostly incompetent now anyway, or incontinent. But it's like, it's just that, like, because that's what they do. They will torment their victims always if they have any ability to do so. And I guarantee that's what. If it was America, he would end up dead at some point.
Quite possibly.
No, in America, there's different. It's a different handling in America. In America, you don't want them isolated. You want them in the general population so they know the fellas.
Well, no. What I'm saying, if he got out and changed his name, she would still have the capability of having a firearm to defend herself. So if he did show up as a she would be able to go, no, screw you, and depending on where she lives, depends on whether she has castle doctrine and stand your ground laws, she would be able to just handle him.
Oh, this is England.
she
You
can't.
get nothing.
Yeah,
You-
you
No, you
can't.
get
Yeah.
nothing.
She can't do
People-
anything.
And you're thankful for it.
Yeah.
People that do this, people that, and I don't even want to call them people, things that
Yeah.
do this to children, they re-offend. They don't change. They never change. They're always the fucking same. And so I say, don't put them in a concrete box. Put him in a fucking wood chipper. Put him
Concrete
in a
shoes.
pine box and bury his ass. Sorry.
agree.
I'm
How
sorry.
Yeah,
about
allegedly.
just beat the shit out of him and rape him every night for the rest of his life, and have a nice long
Good.
life.
Yes.
I think something.
Yeah.
I think Greek mythology may have a few good ideas, but we'll leave.
Bronze bull.
Tantalus.
Calm down.
Tantalus or
Tantalus.
Sisyphus.
Well, stem cells got to be good for something, Skep. So just as a semi-palate cleanser here, because that was terrible. Colorado fugitive.
Oh, that was a good pun. That was
Colorado
that's a good
fugitive who was captured in Florida was leading a posh lifestyle and flaunting his wealth. So this guy actually escaped from federal prison. I kid you not. A career fraudster who escaped from a federal prison in Colorado nearly 5 years ago was captured this week while moving into a $1.5 million house near the ocean on Florida's Gold Coast. Federal marshals arrested Alan Todd May, 58, at his house in Fort
fucking
Lauderdale
hell, dude.
on Tuesday while movers unloaded a U-Haul truck. He was wearing a Rolex watch at the time of arrest and drove a high-end Mercedes, according to investigators who had been surveilling him.
You just gotta love that look on his face.
Yeah, he's living his best life, don't you think, Sora?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, actually, that whole phrase, living their best life, I learned that from Sora. That was a phrase I'd never heard before.
A form of self-actualization.
Ah, that feels
I love
good.
the fact it
Well,
was-
you
I love
know,
the fact it was an
want this
anonymous
movie.
tipster.
yeah,
getting
somebody
caught.
got annoyed, you know, by just how much fun this guy was having after breaking out of prison. Well, screw this guy and enjoy your new, much deeper, much more well locked up hole.
Well, it tells you the anonymous tipster saw him in a photo at a posh fundraiser. Okay. Okay. I like it. I'd like to see this movie though, because
Yeah.
I like what was that one with DiCaprio?
Catch Me If You
Catch me
Can.
if you can.
I've always liked that idea of people who are just that much above the system that they outthink the system, and it's interesting to me to learn how some of these people think, and you know.
So the guy
away
you're
with some of
talking
this
about, the real life person, his name was
Yeah.
Frank Abagnale. I think I got that right.
Yeah,
Uh,
Abagnale.
And the first time I ever saw
Catch
anything
Me
with
If You
him is
Can.
when he was basically caught eventually by the feds and put away for his antics of impersonating people and writing bad checks and that sort of thing. He was actually interviewed by Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show, and that's a hell of an interview.
Yeah, really.
In some ways, hearing Frank actually talk about the stuff he did with a guy like Johnny Carson was way more interesting than the fictionalization of it. Now, he went on to become a fairly successful speaker and also doing security consulting, because he would, how do I phrase this? Essentially, as an expert in forging checks and doing stuff like that, he went around and put together lectures and systems for banks to train people how to spot forged checks.
Oh, it's like the one guy, I can't remember his name now. The guy who was a professional pickpocket, and then he got caught, and so I think it was here in the United States. They started to, they used him to train their special agents. This way, they could pickpocket like people that were like that they needed to. So they started using him as a trainer almost.
Yeah.
And then he also he was the guy who consulted on Leverage, the very first version of Leverage, the show.
Makes
He's
sense.
apparently very good.
No, that makes sense. Okay, well, let's see. What do we want to do next? I'm just sort of picking and choosing from the huge amount of crap we have that we could talk about. Do we want to talk about that? Maybe not. Do we want to talk about this? Maybe not. How about a space thing? How are we feeling
I'd like
about
to meet
space
the other
functional?
members of Harry's committee in his brain.
That show
Okay.
Herman's head.
So back when I was just a tiny kid, I still remember all the people saying, "You'll never find an exoplanet. They're too small. Telescopes are blah 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 blah." Well, now we have tons of exoplanets, and one that's been around for a long time. Let's see. A new video has captured a huge exoplanet 12 times the mass of Jupiter orbiting its star over a 17-year period. We have been observing this damn thing for 17 years.
Which is still nothing.
Yeah, but that means we've known about exoplanets for 17 years. We've known about them for so long that we can actually do this, which is make this movie. Look at the date stamp down in the bottom.
Planets outside of our solar system.
So the black circle covers up the sun, basically the star that's twice the size of our star and much, much brighter. Otherwise, we wouldn't really be able to see anything. But that's actually a massive planet orbiting a star a long way away from here. Look at the size of that orbit.
What do you think the mass of that planet is?
10 times the mass of Jupiter.
Yeah.
It's almost a brown dwarf on its own.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Holy
right.
moly.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
I did.
But 17-year time lapse. This isn't a computer
Damn,
simulation. This is
awesome.
This is an actual
actual
planet orbiting an actual star for 17
but
years.
You wonder if we're getting, one of those orbital illusion things. Like, you remember we thought that Mercury was tidally locked.
Yeah.
It turned out not to be. But because the spacecraft passed through at the opportune time, it's still facing the same way. Well, we've proved Mercury is tidally locked. Nope, you just happened to nail it. I just wonder if something, 17 years for a planet that size, that seems like a very tight orbit to be going that slow is what I'm saying. It seems like it would cover that circumference faster if it's that close.
Yeah, it's like there's a law or something.
Well,
yeah, it's back to Kepler's laws, but
I know.
Yeah, but this is interesting to me, at least. I think this is pretty darn cool.
Fucking incredible.
Well, this is one of these things that, based on what they told me as a child, couldn't possibly exist.
Couldn't happen.
Not only could you not even see it, well, I mean, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, we can detect them because they perturb. There's they make the star just a little bit dimmer as they pass in front of it. No, this is a freaking picture of a freaking planet orbiting another star.
There's the image right there. You can see the image.
Yeah,
What
and
was
with
once
AI, we
science
can make
fiction
it
is now science fact.
Yeah, exactly. So this is pretty cool.
Observable. Dude, I'm like
very exciting.
Yeah,
Very
I like
cool.
this. I like this.
Me too. I'm all about this.
Let's. Okay, well,
that's like a palate cleanser here.
It is like a palate cleanser. I'm going to go ahead
That's
and do
awesome.
this United thing. So United
let's do this
Airlines
United thing.
recently caught some heat from non-progressive types because they were talking about their diversity, equity, and inclusion goals, right? And how they were not going to hire nearly as many of these white pilots because those are the worst kind. So I did a little bit of
last thing
digging.
I want to freaking hear
Because you're flying
pilot
United.
program that flies people who's in charge of a thing that could easily be flown into something or go boom.
Yeah.
Is DEI.
Well, here's
Oh, geez.
well, they have they're one of the few airlines that has their own academy for teaching pilots, and this is the graduating class from January. Okay,
Let's
can
take a look at them.
Let's take a look at them, and I'm seeing it's a lot of what can Brown do for you.
100% white. Males,
No, there
that's
are
all I
there
see.
are a couple white guys. They're in the tall people in the back, looking super happy that they.
And there's
that they made
a
it
white
through.
girl, and there's another white girl.
No, white girls are different. That's still
Oh, I know,
Yeah,
but it's still they're still white though, so it's only half okay.
No, white people are okay. They just can't have a penis.
Well, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop.
Sora, how do you feel about DEI mentality when it comes to nuclear power generation? Because that's basically how Chernobyl happened.
Yeah, well, they have, unlike other airlines, since they have their own little airplane university in the Southwest, they can pick and choose who they want to train. Okay, so they come out of this just like Lieutenant JGs, just all bright and shiny and full of knowledge, right?
Until
And then we stick them, we stick them in as co-pilot, and they get some real-world experience. Now, this obviously has no relation to the preceding thing, right? And I wouldn't mean for you to think that it does. Oh, wait. No, that's the next article. United Airlines leads U.S. airlines in lobbying spending. So it turns out that there are a number of things that United Airlines is doing to basically cup the balls of the current administration, ranging from biofuel stuff to diversity, equity, inclusion, all this sort of stuff. And the only conclusion that I can draw from what I've been able to find reading is that United Airlines really likes being part of the military-industrial complex. And if the current rulers want you to do diversity and equity, they'll do it. And, they'll just let the chips fall where they may as far as like safety and things like that go. Because it is actually really, really important to not screw up things like communication. Because diversity is good for all sorts of things, but it doesn't necessarily produce better communication in the cockpit. So there was a miscommunication that occurred recently with a United flight where they thought that they heard an instruction to set the flaps at 15 degrees, and it was actually supposed to be 5. And they weren't that high over the water. It caused them to do a dive where they almost plunged into the ocean.
Oh, because they didn't have enough lift.
And they later recovered. They recovered just in time, so it ended up not being a crash. But it was enough of a thing that it became an incident. And I don't think this necessarily has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. No. But to my mind, this whole thing like our differences make us stronger might not actually hold. The plane largely flies itself most of the time. Except for takeoff and landing, the pilots are in some sense kind of superfluous unless something exceptional happens.
I'm curious, were the pilots military trained?
In this particular case, I don't know. What I do know is that diversity doesn't necessarily lead to better cooperation, at least not initially. And my concern is not so much that these people aren't well trained, but whatever differences we're encouraging might actually make communication harder. Like, for instance, if somebody's speaking in American vernacular slang rather than, good old-fashioned proper grammar that we were taught, can you think of all the different ways this can go wrong? Because I sure can. I think having people who understand each other, and I mean really understand each other all the time, might actually be really important.
Communication's important?
It is. What? Certainly in an airplane.
One of the things that is required by the airlines is what's called a sterile cockpit. That means that when the pilots are in the cockpit, they're only supposed to be talking about the flight, not trying to hustle the airline flight attendants, not talking about the big game last night. They're supposed to be businesslike, straightforward, and supposed to have a certain demeanor. Every single major airline has that written into their code of conduct for their staff, that's what's supposed to happen. Part of that sterile cockpit procedure is to be understood by all the other crewmen. Everything you say has to be understandable. You cannot speak in a mumble or with slang that no one else will understand, because that's not productive. And I think one occurrence of that, if it ever happened, would be it might go against the person's evaluation. Of course, that would probably depend on the context of them saying it. If they, were a DSE person,
yep,
maybe that would be taken into account.
Well, you do remember this guy, right? Good old
January 15th.
Sully,
the man who landed that plane on the Potomac. And I worry that sorry, not the Potomac, the Hudson. Sorry. I think about what happened there, and I think the facts of what happened with his case, and I think about these fresh new airline pilots. The idea that we can just make pilots that way. We'll send them off to a thing, give them lots of time in the simulator. It's going to be great. Mm. If you took military pilots with thousands of hours of flying time, and then you sent them and taught them the idiosyncrasies of a 777 at that college, fine. To take random people who don't have thousands of hours of experience and put them in charge of all the souls alive on one of these airplanes based on nothing but whatever this training is.
They passed the test.
It seems really
They're
sus
qualified.
to me. I want the pilots with thousands of hours of experience, then train them on the 777 because it's a different system. It's not the same. But stuff like judgment and composure, because if you hear Sully talk about what happens, he says, I was under a lot of stress. We were all under stress. I was starting to develop tunnel vision because I was under so much stress. And there were a number of things that we could have done, but he says, as somebody who knows a little bit about neurobiology, I knew that multitasking is basically a myth. I needed a plan that I could execute clearly and try to keep my wits about me. Those people in that graduating class couldn't have done anything resembling what he did. And most pilots probably couldn't, but maybe a fraction of that on every plane would be nice.
Have you ever listened to Sullenberg, the cockpit recording? Listen to his actual voice.
Yep, I have.
He's so calm. It's like, I'm going to try for the river.
I should just give you guys the link to this. I just don't want us to get copy struck into oblivion.
Right. Yep, it's worthwhile.
Let's see.
So I found one slide thing to you all talking about military people being airline pilots. So military still makes up about a third of all airline pilots for the United States currently. So a third of all the the public, like Delta and all them pilots, are still former military guys. It's fallen because in the 1980s it was like half. So sorry, I got that wrong.
Actually,
in the 1980s it was roughly 2/3 of all airline pilots in the United States had some military experience, be it Air Force, Army, Navy, or National Guard. Today it's estimated to be 1/3 have military backgrounds. It has a lot to do with the fact that the military is just not letting them go as easy, because we're having a shortage of pilots anyway. So they're just either incentivizing them to stay in the American military, or they're just deciding to not want to do it afterward. And a lot of them are going into the private sector now too, where they're flying the much smaller private jets for the bigwigs. But that's the article I found from a magazine called Simply Flying, and it was published March 1st of this year. So that's at least where the info on that comes from.
Yeah, Serenity.
Where'd they get it from?
They're getting it from.
I'm looking through the article right now. I'll find out where they got it from.
Federal Aviation Administration.
Yeah, that's where you got it.
That's the good one.
Good.
That's the FAA.
Yep. Well, they say source FAA. I'm going to that link. We'll see.
So
page not found is what I got. Thank you very much.
So when I was a little kid, like 4, 5, my favorite thing to do was to go to the regional airport near me. I'd go with my grandmother. I'd go with my grandfather. We'd go to the airport, and in the airport lounge, I would drink Shirley Temples, and they'd have this little thing that you could put over your ear so you could listen to the tower and listen to the planes coming in. And where most kids had like a dinosaur phase? I didn't have that. I had like an airplane phase. And so I learned everything I could learn about every kind of airplane that was out there, like how the motors work and all that sort of stuff. And I used to just love to go to the airport. And United was like one of my favorite ones. I used to love when I was a little kid for the United planes to come in. I couldn't even say United properly. I was so young going in. I would mispronounce the name of it, and we're not going to say what I said.
What was this?
I'm not saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm being obtuse intentionally.
Okay, no worries.
That's okay. But it was a nice thing to do. I mean, I used to love it. So it really pains me to read the story about my favorite airline and think, well, is this the thing I really want to fly on? And it doesn't have to be military. It could be some other way that they get it. Or maybe you start out flying cargo for FedEx and you get thousands of hours in that time. It's just, you need to have some mechanism for getting the time in an actual airplane in the sky dealing with actual flight issues.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just, it was one of those, at least gives some kind of infograph on the basic idea of what's going on. It's going to get interesting in the next couple of years. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But so far, knock on wood or knock on plastic, there have been no major accidents. So that's all I'm going to keep deciding on as long as there's no major accidents.
I mean, air travel is for the most part really pretty damn safe. Certainly on a mile for mile basis. Compared to me getting on a 2-wheeled conveyance and traveling around the block, airplane travel is way safer than anything else. I'm just a little concerned. I don't feel like diversity, equity, inclusion should be the #1 factor for deciding who goes to your flight school.
Oh, great.
It's not a number, but it's not a #1 thing. What they're doing is they're taking all these qualified, excellent pilots, the top-notch pilots, and they're just taking the brown and black ones and trans ones and non-binaries and slotting them in ahead of the white people and because the white people have always been slotting themselves ahead of these other people. So this is just turnabout discrimination. Yeah, well, it's not really discrimination. It's turnabout is fair play because it's not discrimination when they do it.
Which kind of just a side pivot to that.
Mm-hmm.
With affirmative action being being what it is now, since the Supreme Court ruling, does that mean that if someone thinks that they got screwed over for going to the flight school, they could sue?
Well, you can sue. The question is, could you win?
Well, I know that's what I mean, but like,
I know that's what you mean.
Chance.
I was just saving Skep the effort because I knew that's what I was going to say.
It's just, I was curious because it's like, does that mean that like they could sue and possibly win? That's what I mean, like, and say, well, you're put this other pilot over top of me and I had better scores or something like that. So that's the reason why if affirmative action changed anything.
So Serenity, I wasn't going to show this particular one, but sure, what the hell. This is from Sky News. Applicants seeking to join RAF described as useless. Okay, go away. Useless white male pilots in bid to hit impossible diversity targets. They ended up having to actually compensate the people that got kicked out for no reason other than their white skin. They got a whole whopping 5,000 pounds each. But even
depending on how many did that depends on how much money that actually is.
Yeah, they've got their version of Millie there running the RAF, and they decided, leaked emails show the pressure apparently being applied to filter out white male recruits and fast-track women and ethnic minorities. It can also be revealed 31 white men are receive 5,000 pounds each to compensate them for being unfairly disadvantaged by the approach. So the question is, can you be financially compensated for being discriminated against? This is the only example I have off the top of my head. Yeah. So certainly possible, but
I go by the belief of, hey, if there starts to get a precedent set, maybe it can steamroll other things.
Speaking of which, where are we? We're an hour and 30 minutes in. Where do we need to be? Well, this is fun.
Useless white male pilot.
Exactly. Said that? Enormous structure found hiding under the surface of the moon. Turns out near the South Pole. I know, this is part of what they're talking about. Turns out near the South Pole of the moon, there's a huge lump of metal that they're saying is like 5. Let's see, what is they use a really strange analogy to describe it.
They could make so many good like C, D level horror, like space horror movies out of that.
Exactly. The moon has one of the largest preserved craters in the solar system, the South Pole Shemp Basin, located on the far side of our satellite. The area is central to many investigations, with India's first lunar lander aiming for the region Artemis 3, hoping to land humans at the South Pole. Perhaps more curiously, the mass anomaly astronomers found hiding under its surface in 2019.
What are they planning to do about the static electricity at the poles?
I don't know.
That's going to be a huge problem. Landing people there, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But it has a lot to do with sort of the formation of the planet. So they're thinking that this huge ass asteroid that created this huge ass crater may have just had a lot of metal in it, and essentially when everything sort of cooled, you ended up with all these lumps, almost like when you pour molten metal into a fire ant colony. Whoa. But the ancient alien people are firmly convinced that it's some sort of hidden portal city thing.
It's almost certainly iron. I mean,
it's almost certainly iron, but because we can actually measure tiny, tiny fluctuations in gravity as we fly over this damn thing, were able to do things like map what's beneath the surface, which I think is incredibly cool.
I think that's amazing.
Yes. I think this is actually kind of
science fiction becomes science fact.
Yeah. And they're trying to figure out, they've done a bunch of computer simulations to try to say, hey, does this theory work? Yes, no. They've worked through a bunch of them, and there's only a few. I think eventually they'll have this sort of figured out. But I think this renewed interest in the moon is a pretty good thing overall.
It's something, it's something that we can all sort of just like, pardon the pun, but look up and be excited about, you know?
Yeah.
It's something there, it's tangible.
Somebody's just about to go back to the moon. That's what it feels like.
It does feel that way. Well, they're thinking that India and Russia's moonlander, non-manned moon landers are possibly going to be arriving at about the same time on the moon. Maybe they can have a fight for moon supremacy. That would be good. Yeah, exactly. So maybe you guys have heard about this. Man forced to ditch Ford EV truck during family road trip to Chicago. Biggest scam of modern times. So So this guy bought a $100,000 Ford F-150 Lightning and decided, I'm going to take a really long road trip with my family, only to discover that this thing doesn't exactly have... Okay, he basically picked the wrong tool for the job. So he went to
Ontario?
He went to a Ford dealer and said, here, hold on to this, rented a car, and then finished the rest of the trip. Now, to my mind, there's a lot of problems with the F-150. First of all, that when you actually put any kind of load in it, like if you're towing or you've got the thing loaded up, the range drops to like nothing. It's not a very practical vehicle for the purpose that it was designed for. But as a, let's go on a National Lampoon's Vacation, and let's just, put Beverly D'Angelo and the kids in the car and start driving for 1,000 miles. This is a really bad vehicle. Because you go and you stop and it spends like 2 hours to get the thing charged, even on fast charging, because it's got this enormous battery. This is a terrible thing. So electric cars are dumb and stupid, but is it really that? If he had just been smart enough to leave that at home and rent a car for the vacation, like any sane human being would do, it's like, oh, I essentially have a city car, right? So instead of driving my city car on a 1,000-mile vacation, I'm going to rent a car that doesn't suck for long trips, and I'm going to take that.
Did this guy not have a friend who came over and said, look, let's make your mistakes at home before you take your trip with your family?
Yeah.
I so. You hope that he had a friend who would come over and say, look, when you get to this place, you're going to be out of charge. And there isn't anywhere for you to charge. You're going to have to slow charge this thing. That's going to take 18 hours. It's going to stick your family there. What are you going to do then? Make him think that through, raising grandkids.
So you want to hear something funny, like similar to this? So we have some family friends in Romania. They decided to get themselves an electric vehicle because, like in a lot of cities in Europe, they don't really need a car, right? Mm-hmm. So because, it's fairly walking distance to any market, at least in that particular city, buses everywhere they need to go is very accessible. But, they like to go on road trips, or if they need to go to like IKEA or something like that, like the bigger out in the sticks kind of stuff, you need something. Okay, so they decided let's upgrade to an electric vehicle, a fully electric vehicle. Fantastic. This is going to make road tripping across Europe so much cheaper, except for one thing. So, at least in that part of the country, so in Poland, Hungary, Romania, you have to be able to charge your EV, you need to have the right app or the right fuel card or the right subscription service. So you can't just you can't just plug your car in wherever there's an EV charger, like in a thing. If you're not subscribed to the service, you're not charging anything. And they found out the wrong way on a trip to Poland. Where they stopped at a gas station where they knew would have these chargers, only to find out they didn't have the subscription service.
There you go, functional.
Winnipeg, so yeah, okay, so that's even closer. I mean, that's not a far trip. Winnipeg to Chicago is not far. given the scope of the countries. So part of me does feel a little bit bad because there are a lot of people out there who don't take the time to inform themselves of their purchases before they make it. However, with all the media attention, all the advertising, and the companies themselves putting out nothing but positive spins on this shit, it's easy for people to be like, okay, well, you know, I heard from several different sources that it's fine and blah, 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 and these things work. And it's not entirely ethical either. So, I mean, on the one hand, I'm pointing at him, laughing at him, going, you're an idiot. And he didn't have a friend to say, no, dude, you can't do that.
It's like, dude, you can't math good.
You have a city card. That's about it. And don't use it for work because that thing's not going to be able to transport materials from anywhere to anywhere. You know, it's just
functional. The main issue is that people do not think like engineers. Okay, because no. Bear with me for a minute. The problem is that the 90% solution is often the right solution. What is wrong about getting a car that works for you 99% of the time, or 90, and then just rent a car when you want to do something special? My car will not carry huge amounts of stuff. You know what I do when I need to move shit? I rent a van or I rent a truck. I don't need to own a van or own a truck because I don't do it that often. This guy is just dumb because he didn't go, okay, well, maybe this serves my needs around town going to and from work. I'm going on a long vacation. I don't feel like spending 10 hours charging on a 30-hour road trip. It's just stupid.
That's why
Rent a damn car.
That's why I'm pointing and laughing at him. But to me, the problem is that we've in the West, we've been sort of pushing people away from being informed consumers and just being mindless drones to the corporate products. Like just consume, don't ask questions, just consume. And that's, you know, not to get too far in the weeds, but it's a bigger sociological problem than just, you know, American or Canadian or whatever. It's just how the producers, the big producers, like it. Don't ask questions, just buy.
Have you ever bought a car like from a dealer? Functional? Yeah. Did you ever notice? I mean, every time I've gone to a dealer to buy a car, you do the normal thing you used to is just like get a copy of Car and Drive or Edmunds, start reading. You know, before the internet, there were ways you could research stuff. I've never bought a car without knowing vastly more about the car than the person selling it to me.
Yes.
We were talking about building computers earlier. Like the same thing. If I'm going to buy a new video card, I'm going to research as much as I can about, you know, if it's a producer I'm not familiar with, I'm going to research them, and then I'm going to research their other products that are similar to that product. Then I'm going to research that product itself, and then I'm going to start looking at what commenters say, like just regular Joes on the internet might be saying about this. I do that for toothpaste when I buy it on Amazon. Like, be an informed consumer, and you have the power. Then you won't be caught unawares like this. You still can, but you're minimizing as much risk as possible. Because I do. Like I said, on the other hand, I do feel for this guy and his family, because then they were up Schitt's Creek with no option. Like you said, know that it's a city car, know that it's an everyday car, and know that in that 10% of time where you need to go that extra mile or 100 miles or 1,000 miles or whatever, that you're going to have to rent a car or take other means of transportation, like train or plane.
What do you have to say to the guy who says, this will be great when everybody has to do this, when the government forces everyone to do this?
Well, I just rack my slide and I go, what? You're not forcing me to do anything. I mean, but that's the good thing about gas cars is you don't, like Sora said, in like to the opposite of what they have in Europe. It doesn't matter what type of gas station you go to, you can drop cash, drop plastic, whatever, pay for it through currency, fuel up, and keep on going because it's the most widely used thing. Sure, if you want to think of some heyday where everybody's going to have this, sure, but today's not the day. So today's not the day for you to go from Winnipeg to Chicago in your EV. You don't know unless you've done the research, that extra research to go, where are the charging stations? Figure out my miles traveled on a single charge. The periods where we have to actually stop for a day and a half, maybe, but you know,
But
there's a lot of extra work into making that
yeah.
work.
And it's kind of like it takes the fun out of a road trip almost.
Yeah.
You think?
Because like even if you have to build you have to plan a road trip around gas stations, you're there maybe half an hour if you want to take a break.
Yeah. Stretch your legs, get some food,
Go washroom,
bathroom.
exactly. That's
kind of
it.
just get out of the car for, you know, a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. But I do feel for them. I'm sorry. This is a painful mistake cuz like what hopefully they can sell it, and if that's
Yeah, he can just use it. He just next time he plans a road trip, just rent a freaking car with a gasoline engine and just drive your stupid electric truck around when you go to work. It's still useful.
I still think he's partially right that it's kind of a scam, but not a total scam. You get what you pay for it. If you're unawares of what you're paying for, then that's on you, bud.
Well, your family in Romania, the big issue was that they just weren't on the right charging networks. They were just naive and thought they could plug in everywhere, right? That was the major issue.
Well, one of the card that they had is like a national gas. One of the
what surprised them? What surprised them?
Oh, that that there are so many things basically, because it's the idea being that you can't just plug in, so that you have to have a subscription, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not, they weren't expecting it to be for free, of course. Like the idea is, okay, you plug in, you swipe your card, and you pay for it, charge, right? That's what was expected. What was not expected was that, your money's no good here unless you have an app, a subscription, or a special card.
Yeah, it's like going on a road trip with a gas car and pulling up to an Exxon Mobil station and going, I don't have a subscription to, I don't have a mobile card. Oh, I can only fuel up at Shell, but I mean, either way, I'm paying you the same money. Like, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah. So and I thought that was, honestly, thought it was really funny.
Why would they do that though? Is it to drive? I wonder if it's to drive up the need to purchase multiple subscriptions, or if it's,
I think it's country specific. I think it's country
it's
specific. So it's nothing to do.
Everybody's trying to chisel. That's what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Would you like to see two unlikely animals in a fight?
Please.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Kefki, you're gonna want to wake up for this. Maybe Kefki.
I'm awake. I'm just numb with some food.
Now here we are. This is an ocelot in altercation with a two-toed sloth.
Oh.
Is it a luncheon engagement?
Nom 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 nom. Get off me! Hey!
Do not fuck with me, cat.
The sloth is making his high-speed getaway.
You see them claws, Mr. Ocelot?
Yeah, we had to actually time-lapse it, so the ocelot's on top of the log trying to go after the sloth. Sloth's like, no, I don't think so.
Ocelot, you see your environment.
Is this fast forwarded?
Yeah. The sloth is like, I could do this all day.
Old bear rabbit in the fire patch.
The biggest exporter of energy minerals we need to make car batteries. We are. We don't just do that here. No substance to chase that. So you have to assume the world will dig up enough minerals.
So something stupid is happening with my browser.
And that the price of those will go down.
Oh, something's playing.
Something's playing. I wonder what it is.
Right.
Lower the price of
Yeah.
Oh, it's there. Shut up, moron. We're trying to watch the ocelot and the sloth fight.
It's interesting because sloths have that long hair. They have loose skin.
Back to the fight.
And they have those toes, which are really big talons. They're not meant to.
Oh.
This is like a Roadrunner video.
Yeah.
Come on,
Like
asshole.
it's my turn to get you.
Come on. Come on.
Yeah, so I think the ocelot was pretty effectively shut down.
Yeah, I mean they're mostly they'll mostly only eat carrion or rodents.
Come play in the quicksand. I can stand you.
They're
I
both so
enjoyed
cute.
that. Ocelot versus sloth. And this reminded me, I have
really
Serenity's name written next to this one. Woman attacked by hawk and snake at the same time.
It was I couldn't believe what was happening.
Oh
Peggy
my
Jones
God.
of Silsby
This
was
really
mowing
happened.
the back 6
Yeah.
acres of her home on Tuesday, August 1st, when a snake fell down onto her from above.
He was starting to dart at my face and come into my face.
This
and
wasn't
he
like
was
an engagement.
striking my glasses. And he just kept on and I just couldn't get rid of the snake. And it was like, I think I went into survival mode.
Jones says a hawk then came down and pulled the snake from her arm, but not before leaving severe cuts and puncture wounds.
The
He
hawk
just
came
wanted
down
his
4
snack.
times to get the snake off of my arm. When I looked down, I had blood all over
Oh,
my clothes. and all over my arm.
Well, it
My
actually
arm
happened.
was
It looks
shreds,
worse than it was.
And I had severe bruising.
Jones's husband took her to Altus Emergency Room in Lumberton, where they learned she hadn't been bitten by the snake, but it had done damage to her
Lumberton,
glasses.
wonder if they had
Wow.
Jones described the
doctors
entire
there.
ordeal as traumatizing.
The only thing that I could think of, my husband was at the front of the property and I was screaming and I knew he couldn't hear me. And the only thing I could think of was just to call on Jesus' name.
Yep. Well, when you're being attacked by a hawk and a snake at the same time, I think Jesus is definitely your go-to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd
God bless
certainly
her.
mention him.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah.
I feel like Jesus didn't really help that much.
You know what I love is that this woman is out there plowing the back 40.
Oh,
She's a fine woman.
A fucking snake comes out of the sky, attacks her. Hawk attacks her and the snake, makes off with the snake. She gets bandaged up. She was back out mowing the same thing like 2 days later.
That's fortitude. That's what we like.
I mean,
she's just an awesome.
Sorry,
lady.
Kefki, what?
Oh, no, Badger said there was no sound for the video. I just wanted to let you know.
Oh, there was. Well, that's fun because I was only getting sound in one side.
I heard sound.
Well, clearly it's all starting to go to shit, which seems to
I
happen a lot
imagine
when we do these streams.
I imagine the hawk had already caught the snake and was midair, and the snake was kind of fighting and wriggled free, fell onto her, and the hawk was like, "Oh no, you don't, bitch! That's my dinner," and was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it was slashing.
And she's
at her
going,
arm,
"This is
because
all a
she's like,
misunderstanding."
well, no,
I'm a
bystander. She's a 50-something-year-old woman. She's probably like, "Oh my god!" And not doing herself any favors by actually defending herself against the snake. She's probably freaking out.
Mhm.
But you're right. Probably the next day or two later was back mowing the lawn and just like stupid snakes.
The thing to do is realize that if that thing is around her neck, her arm, it doesn't sound like it was a poisonous snake. If it was, it may have been copperhead. And so, which is not serious. You make the decision. Okay, I'm going to get bit, and you grab that snake by the head. And when you have that snake by the head, that snake is now a cockroach as far as you're concerned. You can squash them. I've killed them with my hand, and you take care of that. That's all the while this hawk is trying to grab the snake from you. I would be taking the snake off my wrist, batting away at the hawk, immobilizing the snake and getting the thing off, and then throwing it down. Here, take your dinner and get out of here. Leave me alone.
Hey, well, I mean, they both eat rats and rodents, so I mean, they're both fine in my book as long as they're not attacking me.
Yeah, but once they're attacking you, I mean, I'm ripping the fucking snake's head off. Yeah.
Do you
They're not very robust creatures. You can tear them in two.
Serenity, do you have a lot of rodents trying to get into your barns? Has she stepped away? Yes, she's muted. Okay, she stepped away. She's probably dealing with real life animal things, not our
or metaphorical rodents.
Yeah. Well,
welcome back.
She's there.
Sorry, I had puppies.
That's okay. I was just asking. We were talking about the hawk and the snake that attacked a woman at the same time. You did see that part, right?
Oh well, I see the thing up on the screen now, and I hate being country. That's not all that. It's not.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying. I mean, hawks and snakes, they both eat rats, so I'm fine with it.
How
just
many
not
times
attacking
have I been
me.
harassed by hawks and crows?
I got
The
crapped on
range
by a
around
seagull
here,
once.
the ravens around where I live, I have bought them off, so they leave me alone for the most part.
They will too, and they'll recognize somebody. I know exactly what you're talking about. You're right.
I pay them off like they're the mob.
Do you put suet out, or what do you put
Pay
out?
them corn.
It depends on the time of year. If
whatever
is,
grain you got.
Well, we have a lot of like berries bushes and stuff like that. We have wild strawberries and stuff like that, but they have a hard time seeing it. So usually when I weed, because wild strawberries aren't very useful to me. So when I weed and I grab a bunch of wild strawberries, I'll put it out in a pile and they'll go dig through that to get the wild strawberries. If we have any corn left over, like the corn husks, and there's bits of corn left on it, I leave that out for them. They'll sometimes eat out of the pig slop buckets, but I'll put extra stuff in there for them once the pigs are done, so they know. Wintertime is when the soot goes out, just because they need to get a little bit fatter and get some.
They need the calories.
Yeah, but we have woodpeckers too, and I like paying off the woodpeckers as well because they keep the goddamn motherfucking starlings away. I hate the starlings. I hate those little bastards.
Yeah.
Starlings are cockroaches as far as
yes, they are. Oh, they're them and the mockingbirds. The mockingbirds,
fucking birds.
The mockingbirds don't bother me as much. I just don't like it when they harass my dogs. So we have an understanding. But
in
the
Texas,
starlings,
mockingbird is state bird of Texas. In Texas, we have a saying that it's our state bird, but we don't like our state bird.
well,
Nobody
like
wants a fucking mockingbird.
Because the barn cats I feed outside because I don't want their cat food in the barn because then it's going to attract mice.
Yep.
The starlings will just sit there and stare like a bunch of horny dudes waiting outside a club, just staring. And I'm like, will you get
nice metaphor.
Yeah, very nice metaphor.
And they just sit there and they'll just like, and I'm like, you guys are not subtle. Get out of here. The ravens have started fighting the starlings though, so they run off now. But there's a couple hawks that live nearby. We have some turkey vultures. The turkey vultures, we have come to an understanding. I'm like, if something dies, you can have it, but don't be a butthole to the small animals. The hawk, he's learned his lesson because I have a hawk wire or the bird of prey wire above where the chickens go.
Know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
So they can get from their coop to the tree line.
Right.
Because we have very low sitting trees, so the hawks can't get to them easy. And he's gotten trapped in there because I double layer it. So, and I've had to dig his butt out so many times. He's just stopped. He's just like,
the technologies of keeping chickens. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, we have fish we have to talk about.
Oh boy.
Just very briefly, I keep forgetting to introduce this one. Cocaine sharks may be feasting off bales of drugs off Florida's coast.
Oh,
that explains a few things.
Thousands of
What's
sharks
worse than a
off
great white
Florida's
shark?
coast may have
Great white
ingested
shark
bales
on
of cocaine left in the water by drug smugglers attempting to get their products into the U.S.
Not very smart.
Yeah,
Smart
well, you know.
killers, thankfully.
Cocaine sharks.
Cocaine
Poor
bear.
shark.
Now
I know.
there's cocaine shark. Dun, 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 dun.
That's right.
So you see this really strung out shark, nose bleeding,
Hey, man. Hey.
But hey man, I'm a little short this week. But if you hook a brother up, man.
Well, it's like, it's funny, but at the same time, it's one of those, great white sharks have such a good sense of smell in the water that they've now made their own like police force the drug dealers have, because like if any of the product hits that water, any of it, those sharks will be like, meh, and we'll just run them down.
Well, know which sharks they are, because those are going to be the ones that are constantly like sniffing and rubbing at their nose.
Yeah, but they're still drug dealers. They're usually not that smart. Or the drug runners. The drug dealers usually aren't stupid, but the drug runners are dumb.
The ones that are really into it won't look you in the eye.
Yeah. Well, remember Sora? You remember the vaquita, the tiny porpoise-like thing? And I jokingly said that if we just try a little harder, we can probably push them to extinction.
Oh no!
Extinction alert issued over critically endangered vaquita. So,
what did you talk to?
I don't know. I didn't know I had this kind of pull, but
don't care.
These tiny porpoise-like things that only live in the north of Baja are they're not doing so well. I mean, I was just joking around, but apparently
Poor fajitas. Wait.
Poor fajitas, yes.
Oh God, there's
they
only
look
10 left.
delicious.
I'm just asking for intellectual purposes. Has anybody
Intellectual
tasted?
purposes. Ah.
Anybody tasted them? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I tried a tofu version called "I Can't Believe It's Not Vaquita." They have it at Whole. They have it at. Yeah.
No.
I think it's also there's a competing product called Surf Loaf. I think that's another one.
There's only 10 left, though.
Yeah, I think they're
No.
largely screwed.
Is that only 10 left in the war in the wild, or they're in captivity?
10 they know about. 10 they
Yeah,
know
10
about.
they know about. There could be some bitches hiding, but
Yeah.
like those birds that like to do like the
People
birds
are
in the
terrible.
rainforests.
Yep.
Who
I
like
mean,
hide and then pop up and scare the crap
I
out of
hate
people.
to see anything disappear, but nature does have a process, and just don't get in the way. You know, try and stay out of the way. I don't think we drove it to extinction. If we did, you know, we're part of nature too. Fuck off.
We are. People like to forget that. We like to pretend that the rules don't apply to us, but they do.
We are gods, Harry. We are beyond regular animals. We are gods.
Those are Democrats. Those are Nancy Pelosi made.
Well, speaking of confused individuals, I'm not really sure. The thing is, I normally hate Egypt's Department of Antiquities because they've got idiots like Zahi Hawass. But this is actually, I'm not really sure who to dislike. Egypt bans Dutch archaeology team from Saqqara due to museum's Afrocentric exhibition. So the Dutch were basically back in Holland, had a exhibition which had all the we was kangs and shit kind of stuff going on, talking about Egypt.
Right.
And the Department of Antiquities, especially after that whole Cleopatra thing on Netflix, or was it Netflix or was it Amazon? I forget.
Netflix.
Would have none of it. So they just said, okay, a team of archaeologists from a Dutch museum has been banned from carrying out excavation in Egypt's rich Saqqara necropolis after the museum mounted an exhibition that drew condemnation from Egyptian authorities. After opening the Kemet Egypt in Hip Hop, Jazz, Soul, and Funk, the National Museum of Antiquities in Leiden received an email from the head of foreign missions of the Egyptian Antiquity Service saying that the museum is falsifying history with its Afrocentric approach, Dutch newspaper NRC reported on Monday. So
several thousand-year gap there.
Yeah, well, everybody wants to talk about sort of the Nubian kingdoms in the African continent. And I know this is a thing that Skep knows tons and tons about. If we weren't 1.5 minutes to the end of the show, we could get into it in depth. But the main issue is I normally don't like the Egyptian Department of Antiquities because of assholes like Zahi Hawass. But at the same time,
a mediocre archaeologist.
I'm not really sure. Well, it's complicated. There's we won't get into that. There's more stuff about Zahi Hawass we could talk about on another show. But
he is compromised.
He is compromised and painfully mediocre. But
what is that bullseye board right there?
It's an interior of a sarcophagus.
Shaped like a,
yeah.
Oh, jeez.
No, you're fine.
I thought that was a game, like a bullseye game.
No, it's meant to represent where the heart and the genitals were when they placed it in. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. It's, hey, don't touch me there. This is my no-no circle. But I mean, on the one hand, I sort of agree with them sort of caring about Egypt as a brand and not wanting people to go out and sort of, I guess, have heterodox statements about Egypt. On the other hand, it seems kind of heavy-handed that they have the power to literally frame how people talk about something in history. I mean, I don't agree with what the Dutch are doing, but I'm kind of disturbed by the power that the Egyptians have at the same time. So and then this isn't an act. I mean, I'm deeply conflicted. I kind of hate everybody in this piece, in this article.
Well, it's like if you like look at some of the exhibits, it's like they have like Queen Latifah with like an African crown on her head, like an Egyptian crown on her head. Sorry, and Beyonce in like certain pictures of stuff, and then there's a sculpted bust of a rapper named Nas that it's made to look like an Egyptian pharaoh mask, and it's like it's called "I Am Hip Hop." It's like, do who?
Yeah, I've seen the covers of Earth, Wind I've seen the covers of Earth, Wind and Fire albums too. That doesn't make it history.
I know, but it's just like this entire exhibit feels really racist.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
Like,
you know,
legit.
Utterly
people.
contrived.
Yeah,
This is not anthropology. This
So-
is not what anthropology is, ladies and gentlemen.
So I have something for you, Skep. Somebody who has a niche hobby that's even more niche than anything I do. I mean, I have a slide rule collection. Okay, so clearly I'm kind of strange, but this...
there are two of us.
Dude, this is like a whole new level. The Bicron Surveyor M Geiger Counter from the Geiger Counter Virtual Museum.
Yeah, baby.
I knew it was a Geiger
There
counter.
are people who collect vintage Geiger
Yeah,
counters.
You can,
Yeah.
you can go ghost hunting.
Are they operational?
Yep.
Wait, no.
Right.
Look, it's got a knob and everything. But the fact that there's like a Geiger counter virtual museum and that there's people who collect Geiger counters, it's like, I feel better about myself. I feel like I'm less, maybe a little bit less of, not the ultimate nerd. I don't actually want to be the ultimate nerd.
That is what they use to detect earthquakes, right?
No,
that's,
not seismometer. This is radiation.
Derp,
I've got
derp.
3 of my own slide rules and 2 of my dad's.
Yeah.
But having 5 slide rules is more than the average person owns these days.
Well, you never know when that EMP is going to wipe out all the computers, Skep. You need to have all the
Right
all the
there.
scales.
My little analog computer.
You never know when you're going to have to do, you know, like a cosine H of something.
Cosines are a thing.
Yeah, they are a thing.
Sakatoa works.
So let's see. We have that. Let's see. There was just a
Where's
little.
ferrets? You said there's gonna be ferrets.
There were ferrets at the beginning. I front loaded the ferret.
I wanted to see
I said it was just a. I said it was just a little bit of ferret. I gave you an ocelot fighting a sloth. What more do you want from me?
I am sorry. You're right.
I
am
offered
so
you
ungrateful.
a transfer.
I'm sorry, Harry.
It's okay. Okay, we have to do. We have to do. Let's see. Sorry, something's escaping me. I'm sort of picking and choosing all over the thing. Where's the sword of the Meth King? Okay, here we are.
What?
Sword of the Meth King. Ancient sword of the Meth King seized by Michigan police.
Okay.
I'm
intrigued.
A Michigan police department has announced the seizure of the ancient sword of the Meth King. The Bath Township Police Department posted a photo of the toothed blade last week on Facebook. So essentially, they pulled somebody over and found a whole bunch of weapons in their car, and a rather unorthodox assortment, including this sword.
It's amazing.
Hey, Serenity, do you think somebody's watched a little too much Bleach? Do you think he calls it Sabimaru?
Oh yeah, that most meth heads do.
Yeah, I think that it's.
But I respect it.
A, this is a great haul of weapons. Okay, but B, the fact that the police had the sense of humor enough to refer to it as the ancient sword of the Meth King. It's like, good job, Michigan Police Department. This is awesome.
Well, they probably didn't want to show their full nerd flag because I can guarantee you, at least 1 or 2 of those cops knew what that sword was based off of. They were like, "Well, we don't want to show our full nerd. Just call it the sword."
Wait, what is it based off?
It's based off of a character's sword in an anime called Bleach.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Which is like a big popular thing. If you were a dweeb, if you were,
It's
what are
considered
people
one
who
of
wa-
the
are they? Weebs?
Dweeaboos?
Weebs.
Weebs. Yeah, weeaboo. Yeah, it's a good thing. But I think the sword of the Meth King. I just like the headline. I mean, normally I'm not a big fan of headlines, but this is a great headline.
It's good.
Ancient sword of the Meth King seized by
you're
police.
gonna read that article.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I need to see what that is. Yeah, I'm gonna just look real quick.
Here, I'll put the link. I'll put the link
Thank
for
you.
everybody.
Ancient Sword of the Meth King.
Ancient Sword of the Meth
We
King.
share the quality classy
Okay.
links here on.
Secure that. And I found a channel on YouTube that I think his approach to delivery robots in LA is a lot like my approach to fish. And this has only been around for a a year now. It's called Film the Robots LA. And all this guy does is just go around and take pictures of robots that have been knocked over and looted. And if they haven't, he just makes fun of them because he can.
Poor little robots.
Yeah,
We
so-
have.
How many of them?
Look at these 4 weirdos lined up. Of course, they got Hayden
Preston. I don't know who Preston is, but Preston probably went to fucking private school. I can tell Preston went to private school, and he ties a fucking sweater around his neck. That's Preston.
Leave Preston
and
alone.
Mabel, I haven't seen you in a while, Mabel.
Mabel, oh god.
Mabel.
I hope the chat
Mabel's
can
got
hear
that
this.
name like an old lady. Why are you gonna give a young robot an old lady's name? Now, what the fuck are you four doing, huh? Now, you see what I'm talking about, right? These people are always talking about, hey, why are you following robots around? You don't have to follow them around. You guys are everywhere.
I'd rather the robots than the meth heads on the side of the road.
I love that all of us are watching a guy talk to imaginary.
They've given them personalities with them eyeballs. That's their own fault.
Yeah.
And named them. You do. It's like the thing. Once you name it, you can't kill it.
And turned it loose in L.A., you know, because the people in L.A. are not exactly kind to these robots.
No, that's so cruel.
It's like the robot didn't do anything. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's like I understand though why there's robot armies making deliveries because of how many videos have we started to see where like food delivery door dashers, all of them are just like, screw you, you didn't give me enough tip.
If you live in
L,
L-
there was one guy who got caught putting his pee in it.
Ew.
Oh God!
If
Don't
the
do
person
that.
didn't tip enough, he just put it in there.
Robot can't put their PB in it.
Exactly.
See, all these people are so stupid. Don't people like put like
He's
a minimum
teabagging
tip,
that robot, and then
they change it to a better tip once it's delivered?
look at that. See, that's
That's
terrible.
what a lot of people do.
That's what I would do.
There's Otto.
Oh, there goes. See,
Yeah. I don't think LA deserves robots because I think if they're going
No,
to treat the robots like
you
this,
see this? You see what's happening to them?
Fuck
This
LA.
is why they rise up and kill humanity.
exactly.
You leave that robot alone.
Not
Leave the
humanity,
robot
the
alone, you
Californians.
bitch.
Yeah, I mean,
Can we just have a tactical nuke
Stop
in
it.
one of them?
Stop it.
Get rid of LA?
Stop it. Leave the robot alone, you whore.
So,
Sorry.
who has seen? I think it's called like Mall Choppers or something, or Chopping Mall. Chopping Mall. It's a movie from the 80s. So the premise is that they
like
have
Chopping
these
Mall.
new robot like security guards in the mall of the future kind of thing,
Mhm.
and basically they malfunction because of a storm. And spoiler, but it goes around trying to kill the teenagers that stayed after hours in the mall. That is what we need. This is what will happen one of these days. Lightning's gonna strike Otto, Mabel, Preston, all these guys, and their eyes are gonna turn red, and they're gonna start killing people downtown LA.
Or they're just
You've
gonna
been
push them out in
warned.
traffic and they're just gonna get hit.
Yeah.
And see one driving by with the hand sticking out instead of where the food should be, just a hand. It's like
He grows a row of teeth on the lid, you know, so they go chomp chomp when they open the lid.
It needs to be like battle bots where they have like little saws that just come out and go and just start hitting people.
Well, I think I think that constitutes a
Ball's a
show.
great
I
movie.
think we can call it.
I think we killed it, guys.
All right. So thank you, panel. Thank you, chat. Zoo